I was adopted at age 5 off the streets. I don't know too much about my original family. I was adopted in Houston, Texas by the Brashears family. My original last name is Durant. My name Brashears is, of course, my adopted name. I did not adjust, and for about 10 years, I just went through some family upheavals. I never did adjust. By age 15, I left with a backpack on my back, and I pretty much walked across the United States for 2 years until I got in trouble at age 17 and landed me in prison. In prison, I got in a lot more trouble because I really didn't feel like I deserved to be there. And I got more sentences. I got put into situations where I couldn't control, and it was either be a victim or victimized. And of course, I chose the latter, and I ended up getting more prison time. And by the time I made it out, I was 43 years old after spending 26 years and 48 days in Texas prison. That's pretty much in a nutshell.
Beautiful.
Prior to my incarceration, I already had a deep fascination with human history. The narrative that was forced down my throat in elementary and junior high school was absolutely rebelled against. I couldn't accept. There was no in my mind, for me to accept a concept, there has to be a link of chain of circumstances and evidence that would build to that final picture. And I was in my education, in our education in the UK, in the United States, we were force-fed these concepts.
Pearson, sorry to interject, but only very quickly, Brother Pearson seemed to be the guys in charge of all the Western education, but go on. Thank you.
Okay. I just know that we're force-fed these final concepts, but there's no chain like in if I was talking about in legal parlance, there would be a chain of custody. And this is how my research, this is why I research the things I do and the methodology that I employ. There has to be a chain of custody for me to complete a final concept, a final picture. You can't just tell me something was the way it was without showing me how it got there. And this was my problem with the education. And what I did in prison was act like a damn knucklehead for about 11 years. There's no doubt about it. I'm not going to sit here and try to hide it. My entire body from my neck all the way to my feet is covered in one single tattoo. It covers my whole body. The only thing that I did do was to satisfy my adopted mother's. She just didn't want to see anything on my neck, my face, my hands, and I honored that. I have nothing there, but the rest of my body's completely done. So, in prison, in my 11th year, I realized I'm not getting out. Parole is an illusion. They have completely politicized the parole process, and everything the prosecutor and judge told me from the beginning was not necessarily a lie, because the legislative intent at the time was for me to get out of prison after 7 years. But judges and prosecutors don't know what future legislations are going to do. And when they create new laws retrospectively, ex post facto, to the general public, it's illegal, but to the imprisoned population, retrospective laws are absolutely illegal. They're employed all the time. These new parole laws kept me in prison an additional 10 years. Knowing that I was going to be a lot older by the time I got out, I started pursuing my interests and hooking up with different individuals, benefactors, patrons, organizations that would fund my education. By the time I got out at 43 years old, my bibliography was 1,567 nonfiction books that I had studied and data mined.
HMPL stock, I was able to order The Curse of Ignorance by an author called Arthur Findlay. Really old book, and they brought it in from external library. It took 2 weeks to come. And later on in the journey, I think it's fair to say all the libraries had a pretty decent selection of books. All of it mainstream, granted. But then when you got to Park Prison, the library was phenomenal, and the guy there, I got really friendly with him, and he would essentially order anything I asked him to order. Everyone was able to do it through the order book, but he said, because we used to chat like, any ones you want, just let me know. And the ones that he couldn't get, I was able to order off Amazon, as long as they went on the banned list. So I had myself, was able to utilize the time quite effectively and devour just as much knowledge as I could, basically. So with regards to the access within prison, as well as the patrons, patrons, and benefactors, can you talk to us a little bit more about kind of the progression of access and how that became easy as you went through it?
Here's a unique phenomenon we find in Texas prison. The prisons I was at, like the Walls unit, the Eastham unit, the Estelle unit, some of these units are over 100 years old. Libraries are full of books from the 1860s, 1870s, 1880s. We're talking about pre-World War II. You know, come 1946, after the Nuremberg trials, almost every single American history book was rewritten, redacted, and edited, and basically scrubbed. Any history books you can get your hands on before 1944 are gold mines of information. Even the Encyclopedia Britannicas were accurately reporting things up until the 1920s. It's after the two world wars that we have some serious problems. The history books, we can do a comparative analysis between historical texts and monographs, even archaeological monographs after World War II. They don't say the same things as the ones before World War II, even though they're by the same authors, same publishers. Well, my benefit in my incarceration is I had access to these libraries. And when prison librarians found out what my interests were and what I was doing, all I had to do was receive manifests from the other 116 prisons in Texas. And I had more information than a man can read in a lifetime. I had to cherry pick which historical books I wanted to read. So I stuck with all those that were 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, and 19th century. I pretty much left 20th century records alone that are post-World War II simply because of the huge systemic censorship, the rewriting of history. So the benefit of my research is that I had original source materials. And this is why I say in my Archaix group over and over that I pride myself that none of my data comes from an internet source. It's all from original books and reports. That's the benefit of being a prisoner in Texas. You have access to materials that most people don't even know used to be in print. To interject with an anecdote that's very humorous, although I admit with embarrassment.
Please do. Listen, everything on the table, Brad.
When I was 20 years old, I wrote home. The greatest accomplishment of my life, after 3 years of imprisonment, I wrote home and told my father that, hey, I did something. I took a Merriam-Webster's Collegiate Dictionary and I broke the entire thing down on 17 legal pads, front and back. And I created a system where every word's antonyms were recorded on a line and all the synonyms were created on another line. I was so proud of it. I studied it and I sent it home. And my dad wrote me a letter back and says, boy, you rediscovered the thesaurus. The thesaurus was. But I had done it on my own with just a dictionary sitting in the jail cell and then in prison. But yeah, to my embarrassment, I admit that. I smile on it in retrospect, but at the time I was very embarrassed about that. That was long after I had already done all this other research. And in 2003, I saw an old prison catalog, Book Tree of San Diego, and I flipped through the books and I saw all these metaphysical books by Francis Barrett and Simon Magus and all these alchemical books, and then I looked in the historical section and I saw all these other books that I have remembered from the bibliographic references of the old books that I had studied in other prisons, and I said, well, here's a guy who's reprinting all these old books I haven't had access to. So I wrote him and I told him exactly what I was doing, what my agenda was, my plan. I sent him some manuscripts, and he didn't contact me for over 7 months. I gave up on him, but I was ordering books from him. So my budget in prison was like $75 a month that I could order books. I could just sit here. I could order every month. All my money went to books. And every month I was excited to get that package to see what I was going to learn. I data mined everything. I don't keep books. I don't have an extensive library anymore, because it's the information that's valuable to me, not the actual book itself. I normally pass the books on to other prisoners. I had no use for them once I data mined them. But Paul Tice, the publisher of Book Tree, contacted me after 7 months and sent me a contract. And the contract stipulated that he had the rights to the next 5 books if I agreed to a publishing contract, he gets first rights on the next 5 books. So we stuck to that. He's published 5 of my books now. I have a lot more to release. I just don't have the time to put them together. I'm a busy man. Some members of Archaix, and I've already sent 2 manuscripts to a lady that wants to type them up, and we'll see how that goes. But just to see, volunteers to start transcribing these and getting them ready for publication, because that would definitely abbreviate my ability to get this material out. Was what started everything. I had no intention of writing a book. What I wanted to do, because I'm data mining all these books, my original project, which began about 1999, right around the Y2K deal, My original idea was to put together an entire chronology of the world that assimilated every ancient timekeeping system, calendar, and dating method that we have in recorded history. I wanted to show exactly what year and 1 month it was for each dating system that was going, so we could see the parallels and we could draw inferences on what civilizations were going, what kind of contacts there were, what was happening transcontinentally, and trying to identify particulars where there were beyond coincidence, such as the exact same protagonists, the exact same stories, the exact same plot lines, the exact same pantheons, the exact same traditions and stories found on continents that are separated by oceans by people who are thought to have absolutely no contact. And yet here in Chronicon, we can see 100% definitive evidence that there were correlates. There was a mariner race that was spreading all this like a syllabus. These stories might not even been real, but it was their stories, and we have them recorded everywhere. And by studying a people's calendar and how they process time, we can learn a tremendous amount of material about them. Because chronology is the absolute most ignored study in history today. Ancient chronicons, chronographical references, there's thousands, maybe tens of thousands of them in all the texts that we have today, but no historians ever touched this subject. And it's tainted, like Graham Hancock, his own research can absolutely be refuted. Zechariah Sitchin can be refuted, every bit of it, just by citing the actual dates that the texts that they cite say. But in order to promote their theories, they have to ignore these chronographical references. They have to completely do away with them and cherry pick their data in order to put these theories, these fantastic theories of a 10,000 BC Atlantis. And there wasn't Atlantis, there was an Atlantean empire. And the Egyptians were very specific on their lunar dating code. And other scholars during Plato's day even censured Plato for going with a huge 9,000 year date when the Egyptians only counted in months. Every date in the Egyptian text from the Turin Papyrus on back was by lunar reckoning, which means you divide every number they give you by 12 and you have almost an exact date. And archaeology confirms that Athens was indeed dated to the 13th century BC, which is exactly what the Egyptians said if you go by their lunar reckoning. But if you go by the Zechariah Sitchin reckoning or Plato's reckoning, you get 9,000 BC, and there was no Athens in 9,000 BC. And I isolate like 6,000 of these examples in Chronicon for people to see that our history is cohesive. It's not as mysterious as you think. The only mystery are the fictional introductions by modern authors who are not being censored. You guys know I want to begin with that sound check. I got to make sure you guys hear everything I say. Pyramid, and we're going deeper on the Phoenix phenomenon so you guys can get a clear picture of what is really being kept from basically the public. Outside of Archaix, who's talking about the Phoenix phenomenon? Outside of Archaix, who has even revealed to you all these things that I have pulled from all these ancient and old sources about the Great Pyramid? You're not reading anything like this in modern books at all. But I'm telling you, there is an agenda that wants to push the ancient aliens deal. That's why they're so well funded. That's why George Tsoukalos, or whatever his name is, the guy with the crazy hair, he's got so much attention on him right now. Believe me, this is all agenda driven for a very definitive purpose. This whole Anunnaki, Zechariah Sitchin deal, the false chronologies, you listen, guys, that too is agenda driven. You have to understand where these men went to school. Yeah, do your homework. To find out some really interesting correlates between Mr. Hancock and Zechariah Sitchin. Very interesting ones, and not just those two. Many, many people today you think are popular authors, I promise you, they are not equal to their books. Fingerprints of the Gods by Graham Hancock, I don't even believe the man wrote it. I don't believe the sociologist can even put together anything like that. And the book's not impressive at all, but I promise you, he's not going to come and to the table and want to debate this Atlantis 9500 BC stuff, even though he has had millions of views across multiple platforms. It's not going to make sense to you after you see the data in this video, because the video that I released showing the clips of Graham Hancock saying 9500 BC for Atlantis, guys, I wasn't picking on him. That's all he's got. There is no data to comport with that, but Plato, in a single statement about Solon receiving from the priests of Sais this 9,000 figure. But I'm going to show you there are very qualified PhD historians and archaeologists that I'm going to quote for you right here that have all completely dismissed Graham Hancock. So why is the man still on the international stage going around promoting this lie? It has been disproven from multiple different perspectives using multidisciplinary approaches. These books here are here for a reason, guys, because I'm going to show you things that they're not telling you. They're not telling you about these things. This Atlantis story is absolutely real. But the only modern historians that are actually putting this out, they're unpopular. You don't hear about them a lot, but their books are genius. They tell you the Atlantis narrative because it is packed with historical chronomarkers that actually date those events and can be comported with what we have found archaeologically, and it can be cross-referenced with what has been left behind in historical texts. I'm telling you guys, Graham Hancock would never be so foolish as to ever be caught on video being debated by me about this topic. He knows this. His handler, Randall Carlson, knows this. Their buddy, Paul Wallace, knows this. Billy Carson knows this, and a host of others who have all put out this deliberate misinformation. Guys, some of these guys I'm telling you about, they are even above the collegiate level. They're very educated. They should second and third millennium BC antiquities, archaeology and anthropology and history. Real authorities have already published the data. Now, I have been accused of being a sensationalist and bringing all kinds of new ideas and concepts to the table, but have I? I have critics, and they email each other, and I see a lot of these emails. There's a lot of critics of mine who think that the emails that they are writing about me stay private, but people send me copies of emails, forward copies of emails to me all the time, and I get to see the inside of these authors' minds. I get to see how they work. And I've really heard some ridiculous stuff. Paul Wallace, for example, has 2 channels. I believe one of them is like 945,000 subs. Fifth Element or the fifth something, I don't know. But he has another channel with 100,000 subs, and I didn't know the man's name. I didn't know anything about him. Recently read an email though that was pretty dismissive of my research, but this dismissiveness was really cocky, and it kind of got under my skin. So, Mr. Wallace, when you're ready to debate this issue about 9,500 BC Atlantis, please, my email is very easily found. Any of my moderators can give it to you in the chat. But you need to back up what you said in this email. You said you have a book published, and in that book, you have independently verified outside of the Plato narrative of 9,000 units of time. You have independently verified that Plato is absolutely correct. Well, it's time to put up or shut up, because if you've really done this, you need to come on my channel and explain to my listeners why you have found something that is an anachronism and absolutely historically wrong and can be shown from multiple different mathematical vantage points. We can show you an error. So I'm not picking on anybody, but we have a lot of people falling for paradigms that are taking him down rabbit holes. I would be remiss if I was to sit here containing and exploding with so much data that can be verified and not try to educate as many people as I can, when 17 years from now, our world is going to fundamentally change. That vapor canopy is coming back, and all those people who are going to be caught unaware as how to survive this, how to move forward, going to look back in time and say, damn, man, there was a guy trying to educate people about this way back, man. Why didn't he make a better effort? Why did he stay to himself? Why didn't he? No, that's not going to be me. No one is ever going to be able to accuse me of being quiet. Yeah. I didn't bring the vapor canopy to the table. What I did is brought it back to the attention after it was deliberately suppressed. When the scientists in the 1920s published their reports, I showed you on my channel in 4 different books published in the 20s, 30s, 50s, and 70s, all about the vapor canopy. And even now, the Institute of Creation Research and other organizations are on board. They're doing vapor canopy research. This isn't something that Jason of Archaix ever made up. All I did is bring it back to your attention. Am I the one that come up with the 9,000 years of Solon was actually moons, which dates the whole Atlantis deal, not to 9,600 BC, like Graham Hancock and all these disinformation agents are telling you, but it dates it to the 13th century BC. Why? Why the deception? Guys, I didn't invent the Phoenix phenomenon. All I did was educate you on it over and over and over. I have not one single detractor, not one individual out of all the call-outs. Anybody wants to go through my Phoenix phenomenon data, go through all that, and you want to debate that, you want to write a thesis, I have been inviting people for 2 years. Yeah, man, write down your thesis as to why it's wrong, and then come on my channel and talk about it. Catalhuyuk, Mohenjo-Daro, Easter Island, Jericho. It's the same. Those are all the same dating of Göbekli Tepe. Göbekli Tepe and all the other teepees aren't old. Just because something is buried underground is not evidence of antiquity. Viking settlements from 1,000 years ago, not one of them was found above ground. They're all underground. They're all excavated. Yeah. 4,000 years ago, Nineveh, Nimrud. Yeah. Calne, Uruk, Rashamra. Yeah, guys. Urartu, Mari. Why am I naming all these ancient cities? Ugarit. Why? Amarna. They're underground. That's where they're found. That's only 4,000 years ago. So digging up these cultures is not mysterious. Now we have an anachronism here because Graham Hancock has specifically told us that Göbekli Tepe dates to this Ice Age dating. Well, there's a problem with that. This is why other scholars can't take this man seriously. At the top of the pillars is clearly seen the Near Eastern handbags that are so famous in Mesoamerican Babylonian, and Sumerian artwork. And you can see all these deities carrying this bag. I have a video about this, very short. Many of you already know this, but this bag is found, and it's positively dated to about 27th to the 19th century BC. Yeah. Tell me again, Göbekli Tepe is how old now? Those handbags, are you going to tell me that those handbags are 7,000 years older just because they're at Göbekli Tepe than they are everywhere else they're seen in the ancient world, according to the archaeological record? This is why academics and scholars can't take Graham Hancock seriously. It's ridiculous. You know what's equally ridiculous? Göbekli Tepe has artwork that is identical. It's animism artwork on its monuments that are identical to Easter Island Moya. Those giant heads, yeah, there's hundreds of them now, guys. Hundreds of those heads have been excavated. And they're not heads, they're full bodies. Dig down, the whole full body's there. And what's on the back of those bodies and heads? Göbekli Tepe animal art. Yeah, there's even a text. Oh, it's crazy, guys. I'm not making this up. David Hatcher Childress talks about it too. In this book right here. He talks about it too. Lost cities of Atlantis, ancient Europe, and the Mediterranean. He mentions this too. Rongo tablets found at Easter Island are identical to the same writing that is found in Turkey. Why is that relevant? Because Göbekli Tepe is in Turkey. What else is in Turkey? Okay, another 19 teepee sites are in Turkey. What else is in Turkey? Why is Turkey so relevant here? Why would they want us to believe these teepee sites are so old? There are 60 underground cities in Turkey that date to the vapor canopy period. They're fallout shelters. So where is Turkey? Oh, Turkey was ancient Phrygia. What do we know about ancient Phrygia? Well, we know that they had a legend of a king named Archaix, and that king built underground cities and took the population from the surface to the underworld to prepare for the coming of the sun. Yeah. Where's that at? That's Phrygia. Where's Phrygia? Well, it's ancient Lydia. What do we know about ancient Lydia? Well, the Lydians are the ones that were in existence after the fall of the Trojan War, the Sea Peoples Federation, when the Sea Peoples came and totally destroyed the Hittites. Why is that relevant? Because Turkey is Anatolia. Anatolia is the Hittite Empire that fell when the Sea Peoples Federation came in and wiped them out. Why is all that relevant? Because the Sea Peoples were from the Atlantic. In Plato's narrative, they are the Atlanteans. Every bit of this comes full circle. You are being specifically lied to about the timing. So basically, I'm just telling you that I'm Jason of Archaix, and I do hold myself to be one of the most accurate chronologists that we have in our time right now. And I try to be as modest as possible, but I'm asserting an absolute fact, and it's a challengeable fact. I invite that challenge. Chronology is my expertise, and ancient calendrical systems is my passion. So I'm telling you that a lifetime's worth of research is showing you that Graham Hancock's not just wrong, he's lying. And that means he's a part of an agenda. So this is the subject matter of this video. My presentation is over. I know it's been a little too long, and I'm sorry, guys, but it's time for just a little bit of Q&A. Let's do it. Do some Q&A. Hey, Ryad. I'm just not I'm not a bully. I don't want to pick on anybody. I'm not gonna sit here. It's just not in my nature. I'm fully qualified to do it. Believe that, intellectually and physically, but it's not even in my nature. I'm not a bully. I'm not trying to intimidate other people. But I have a message, and my message involves the true history and function and future of the Great Pyramid Complex and how it relates, and the history of the Phoenix phenomenon. And if I'm going to be ignored by so many large channels and other authors and all, I send emails to different people. Listen, if I'm going to be ignored, then I'm going to do what's necessary to educate as many people as possible, even if that means I have to lay bare your falsities. I'm talking to other hosts, YouTube channel, other platforms. I'm talking to other authors. I'm not talking to my listeners. I'm not talking to the general public. I'm talking to those individuals who have been on the edge, who have basically refused to even entertain any dialogue with me for whatever reason. I don't care if you're triggered about my criminal history. I left that behind 33 years ago, and so did everybody involved. But if that's all you got to contend with me, then that's cool. You can mention that too. I don't care. But I promise you guys, I am not going to be quiet, and nor am I going to take what I have spent a lifetime putting together and just continually feed it to only the few people who will listen. No. If you're not going to reach out to me, I'm going to reach out and touch you. I promise. I'm going to do it intellectually. I'm going to do it so people can see that you're full of shit. That's what I'm going to do. I've basically been left no choice, because Jason's not going to get forced into a bubble. I'm going to grow. I'm going to push forward. And I promise you, there isn't an obstacle in this world that's going to stop me from fulfilling my mission. It's just who I am. It's exactly what's going to happen, because the public needs to know about the Phoenix phenomenon. And we need to do that by collapsing all the false paradigms, because as a community, we need to move together, and we need to remove all these agents and all this opposition like Graham Hancock. You're not going to tell the truth. You need to sit down somewhere. Randall Carlson, you're not going to tell the truth about history and all. You need to sit down somewhere. Billy Carson, you don't want to tell the truth about it. You need to. Paul Wallace, I don't care who you are. I don't even care how popular you are. And I don't even care if all of you come together and attack me. It doesn't even matter, because I'm telling you right now that when it comes to the rules of this game, I am not going to lose. I'm going to push forward, and I know that I can draw from myself more than I contain. And I know that some of you are baffled about what I'm saying, but I'm going to show you, because I am far more proficient in the dissemination of accurate information when I'm under pressure than when I'm just dialoguing with my community. So my challenges are out there, and you can keep silent if you want to. So my presentation's over, guys. If you want to ask me a question, man, please do it in all caps. Just do it in all caps. It's good. It's a really good question. Our diets are being purposely contaminated today. But after that event, it's going to be a very different world. And the vapor canopy promotes the growth and vitality of flora. So shoot, you want your non-GMO seeds right now. You want to do whatever, preserve them in freezer packs and all that. You don't want to wait 17 years when actual real seeds are no longer available to the public and are very difficult to find. Remember, guys, there's a reason why all of our foods are being artificialized. There's a reason for that. They don't want us to eat anything that's seed bearing, that produces a seed that we'll be able to plant in the future. No, because when they come back up from underground after the Phoenix event during the apocalypse period, they want to be the ones that have all the operable technology. They want to be the ones that are well fed, well dressed, and all that. And they want to come up after the surface has gone through whatever it's going through. Now, remember, the collective, they're going to have a problem. They're going to have all kinds of problems, especially in the inner cities and stuff. But the individuals are almost unaffected by the Phoenix, almost absolutely unaffected. This is a world that is absolutely dependent on whatever your frequency is. It is frequency based. Truth has a frequency. That's why you feel the way you do when you hear it. Therefore, if you're vibrating on higher frequencies to where you know that you are a highly individualized soul, just having a temporal experience. You are an immortal, and that death isn't to be feared, and that none of this is actually real. It's all programming. Even the entire historical record is all programming. This is a simulated environment, but the programming has templates, and there's lessons to be learned in those templates, and this is why we study them. We find these mathematical patterns, these cycles and these epicycles, and we understand where the programming is going. In order to understand the trajectory of events that are unfolding, we have to have an accurate assessment of the programming of the past. These seeds have programming, and that's why they're all being altered right now by these Fortune 500 companies. They know what they're doing. This is something they've done before. Yeah, we're on a loop. Remember, guys, we've experienced this many, many times. Yeah, guys, it's Groundhog Day. Tennessee, Kentucky Bigfoot. That's a hell of a name. I don't know. Question: any thoughts on Skyrock? Skyrock. I don't know. I don't know. A lot of the meteorites that fall from the sky are not made of rock. They're made of gelatin. They're made of this is what Charles Fort and William Corliss have widely documented all throughout the historical record, going back to the days of Pliny the Elder in natural history. A lot of times it's a goo. It's a gelatinous material. Sometimes they call it star jelly. That when a meteorite falls, they go out there to the area and they excavate the area and they find this gelatin all over the place. It's not even a rock. So I don't know. Don't even know, guys. Yeah, Juliet Goodrow. It could be. I mean, even the rollout of 2020 was multiple different operations happening at the same time. Yeah, 2020 and how the whole world changed and the lockdowns and all the medical stuff. Listen, man, all that, there was multiple different scenarios unfolding all at the exact same time. Yeah, they were studying, documenting, they were seeing how easy it would be for populations to still run perfectly smoothly with nobody moving around. So, hell yeah, I'm on board with that. I'm on board with that. I have a video. If you're interested in some anomalies about Rome, I do have a video showing repetitive timelines, showing that it looks like part of Roman history was grafted together. Whole templates were merged. It doesn't make, mathematically, it doesn't make sense unless some of that history is artificial. Mindy Barhagen. Listen, Jason, knowing what we all know, what state would be ideal to live in concerning future endeavors? Well, I believe that the oversoul will always take care of its own. I believe that as immortals, those who are vibrating on the right frequency will always be given a way out before any anticipated event. And I believe that in preparing for any negative, you become a participant with it. I believe that if I was to overly prepare for anything negative that may unfold in the future, then I'm borrowing into that. I'm actually knitting that future experience into my reality tunnel, and I'm going to suffer what I'm thinking, because there's always going to be, anytime you prepare for something in the future, there's a part of that frequency is not agitation, but I don't know why I can't think straight right now, but there's a anxiety attached to that. Anxiety is very, very harmful. Anxiety, basically, this is why people rarely get what they want when they've gone through all the motions, when they've actually built the picture of what they want, and then they go through the physical, their avatar moves in the physical direction of what they need, and things happen for them. Things happen for them rather rapidly. But sometimes it doesn't happen, and they just don't want to admit that if you really want something bad, there's an anxiety attached to it. This is why it's very important to let go. You got to let that go into the construct before the construct itself can reflect that back as circumstance. Same thing applies for preparing for a negative. If you're preparing for a negative, you're automatically writing into your future that that negative could be more than just potentia. It could be actuality. And that's not good. It's here being over 16.9 years. Turn this off, man. Yeah, 16.9 years. That is distracting as hell. I need to turn this off. I totally lost my train of thought. My phone went off. Let's see. Oh, okay, that was Mindy. Yeah, I just wouldn't prepare. I would not prepare for a negative, especially at this juncture right now. I would have the absolute faith in the oversoul that whatever was going to befall me in the future, an out or something would be provided in the present for that already. It's just the way I live my life as well. I don't care. I mean, it's you've got to live every single day in no fear. Now, I'm not saying that you don't provide for it. I'm saying that you don't provide for it so far in advance that you make yourself a deal. I'm not a prepper, but in a way I kind of am. I do have some food stacked up, but I don't have food stacked up for a long period of time. I don't know. I don't buy into that. Reality is to be experienced. I am not going to worry about future events that have not happened yet, because all I'm doing is broadcasting to the construct that those future events that I'm worried about I'm basically coding that into my future. Yeah, I'm taking what is potentia and turning it into something that could be actual. I don't want to do that. Don't want to do that. Don Forbes, your thoughts on the Thracian and the Scythian empires. I've done in my Chronicon. I pretty much document what is known in the historical record about the Thracian and Scythians. I really don't know anything beyond that. I know that Alexander the Great was very impressed when he tried to go north and tried to attack them, and they turned around and they met him at the table. And I don't know if you know the story. I think Herodotus tells the story. No, it wasn't. No, I'm sorry. It was Darius. Darius of Persia tried to subdue these bowmasters on horseback called the Scythians. And they harassed his army, and finally he just set up a table, had some guys come out there and told the leaders of the Scythians to come, and they brought him a frog, a bird in a cage, and a snake. Some of you might remember this story better than me. I'm remembering something I read a while back, but in Herodotus' account, the Scythians brought King Darius of Persia, who had the biggest army in the world at the time, a frog, a bird, and a snake. And the interpreters asked, why are you giving this? These aren't gifts worthy of a king. So why are you giving a frog a deal? So the Scythian interpreter told the one who could speak Persian, told them that it's 3 gifts. If you're not out of our land in 3 days, it doesn't matter if you jump like a frog or fly like a bird or slither under rocks like a snake. And they gave him a bundle of arrows. He says it doesn't matter because we'll kill you with all these arrows. Is basically what their deal. And Darius, the king of Persia, took his army and left. Yeah. Australia, I like Australia. Thank you, I appreciate it. Thai prison. I would not want to be in a Thai prison, Bangkok. But I'm glad you had some good books there. I don't know what it is about prisons, guys. Prisons got some really good books floating around. I guess nobody can go to a bookstore, so all the books are old. Was Atlantis as it is today or far more advanced? That is a good question because it is relative, and it also covers something that I forgot to mention anywhere in my presentation. Listen, guys, any references to Atlantis being technologically advanced with all kinds of hyper technological things that are even beyond us today is all BS. It is all fantasy narrative. Remember, guys, a lot of what is taught on YouTube and other platforms about Atlantis is total crap. Coming from the 1870s, 1880s, 1890s, has nothing to do with the historical record. Where their sophistication lies is the fact that we do know that in the ancient Americas, they were very familiar with like the piezoelectric, is it piezoelectric or piezoelectric phenomena. They knew how to make earthquake dampeners. They knew how to make artificial lighting out of natural phenomena. So when you're talking about sophistication, no, they weren't circuit board sophisticated like we are, but their engineering was fantastic. Canal works, hydromancy, so many of the things that lost arts, hyperbolic curves in gutter systems and stuff that actually helped water flow. I mean, these things, yes, Atlantis would have been. If we can, I mean, this isn't just theoretical. We can take from the archaeology of the day, which is Knossos. Knossos has very sophisticated architecture, the plumbing, the drainage systems. Yeah, guys, Knossos on Crete, where I showed that picture of that plumed feathered hat that looks just like the Americans of the same time, the Maya that had those plumed feathered hats. So it's not theoretical. We can see that they would have had some very sophisticated naval maritime shipbuilding expertise. Yeah, the ships of the ancient world were far more durable than you believe. Diodorus Siculus, Strabo mentions the long sea voyages of the ancients. This isn't something that's really promoted in modern history, but there was the Heliolithic maritime empire. These were a mariner race from which the Carians and Phoenicians came from. Yeah, the ships were sailing all over the world in the ancient times. This is why we have so many different foreign materials that are found distributed through Egyptian tombs and the tombs in ancient America. When they're excavated, we find these things like, damn, this doesn't even belong in America. How did it get here? Well, it got here because they were trading and because ancient ships. Thor Heyerdahl has already proven in the 1950s and 60s in Aku Aku and his other books, he documented building, photographed it, filmed it. He built a reed ship made of the exact same reeds that the ancients built their ships from, and then sailed in all the points in the ancient world where those reeds are found. He sailed around the world, Pacific and Atlantic. Thor Heyerdahl did that, and he shut up the academic community because they didn't believe that there was ancient. But Thor Heyerdahl did it with a small crew of men, and they sailed all over the world multiple times. So, yeah, it's man, guys, I'm hungry, and my rant is over, and I'm done with this video. But I don't know who Matthew LaCroix is. You're asking Matthew LaCroix legit? I know the name, but I don't know if he's legit. I don't even know who he is. Guys, I really don't know a lot of other authors. I'm very, very well versed in authors, but other platforms and stuff, no, I'm not. I just know that there's several platforms here on YouTube who have entertained guests that have done some mudslinging against me, and I've been very, very quiet about it. I ain't said anything. And I have experienced quite a bit of passive aggressive stuff from other channels where people mention Jason of Archaix, and then people get real snippy, or all those comments are deleted. That's cool. That's cool. Believe me, I'm taking notes. I'm taking notes. Material that I read off to you guys in here, it's going to be posted as soon as I'm done with this video. I'm going to go to my laptop, and I'm going to post this entire list for you in the pinned comment, so you can have all this data and you can share it with all the agents, all the double agents, all the triple agents, all the disinfo experts and anybody else who thinks that they want to continue to promote this Atlantis' 9,600 BC Disney version of history. They can go ahead and check all this out, because they got a lot to disprove before they can even debate this issue. It's crazy. Absolutely. We got to cut this short. Nanny Puffins, Jamie Robbins, Lisa Lambert, Linda Rose, somebody called Keeping It Real, Jahara Lee, Dawn Hart, Jackie M, Alice in Wonderland, Nana No Shift, Truth Seek, and You Shall Find. George, oh, that's a good one. George Abduno. But yeah, it's been real, guys. Got all that shit off my chest. I'm good.